tough night. It was a tough night.
Yeah.
I'm only happy I didn't make the drive down because it's a long ride when you lose. It's a long ride from
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Orangeburg. It adds an extra 30 minutes to a long drive. Just
Oh,
sitting there, just sulking.
welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, your number one home for all things Bison basketball. I'm your host, Chip Washington, the self-appointed Bison basketball fanatic.
What's up? What's up, family? This is your boy Bryan B. Smooth Foston, lover of all things Howard, lover of all things basketball. Looking forward to wrapping up our regular season here and getting ready for the tournament, baby. Tournament time is upon us. E, what's going on?
What's going on? This EWash, still got the basketball Jones and ready for that one shining moment. It's that time of year.
Yes.
It's officially March and officially March Madness. I can tell you now, we have a show for you. This is our last show before we get into tournament mode. And as a result, we'll have a little bit of an update. We'll have a couple of our favorite segments, what's good for basketball, and then we're going to spend some time turning our attention towards all roads leading to Norfolk. We're going to see if we can predict what path both our men and women will take. The Lady Bison and the Bison will take to hopefully win a chip this year. And speaking of Chip, we're going to see if he can make it through a whole episode without putting on his cape, because now that he's the great prognosticator, he likes to put capes on, and now he thinks he's something like Doctor Strange. You see how I did that? Like Doctor Strange. So Marvel, don't call it. Don't add us. If you go after the assets, there will be none. But just know that there's probably some bizarro multiverse type of explanations on where we're going. So we're going to spend some time on that before we wrap up today's show. Before we get into it, Chip, why do we do what we do, man?
Bison Nation, on the eve of the tourney, we want to continue to remind everybody to support these championship programs. You can do that in so many ways. You can donate to Howard's Name, Image, and Likeness Collective, the MECA Society. You can go to the mecasociety.org. You can donate to the athletic department or to the Bison Express Booster Club by going to hubison.com and donating there. And as always, go to the games. We on the eve of the tourney. Get to Scope Arena in Norfolk. Cheer on our teams, the men and the women. Butts in seats. Support these teams. And as always, as we do, supporting this team, support this podcast. Tell everybody about the podcast. You can hear us everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. And you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. So check us out, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, like the podcast, comment on the podcast, and share it with everybody. And we're going to get into this show. We're going to break everything down and do it like we do. Let's get at it, fellas.
My man.
Preach. Ooh,
His speech.
Let me get my plate. Let's pass the plate.
That's a plate. Let's pass the plate.
So the stuff that folds, not the stuff that jingles.
It kind of jingles, but the stuff that folds. Shout out to Eddie Murphy. Coming to America. We're gonna get everybody in this episode. This is the post-Oscar episode. Everybody we wish won an Oscar that did not. We want to make sure we call them out. So before we, shift over and do the recap, a couple of things. Just wanted to just kind of bring everybody to the forefront of what we're talking about here. We actually celebrate it because we're Bison Brothers Basketball, and sometimes we figure that you really listen for the basketball, but we're Bison Brothers. And this past weekend, we celebrated the 158th anniversary of our university. Right. And so shout out to all our Howard alum and Howard students and really Howard supporters, because without Howard, there is no Bison Brothers Basketball. So for
That's
sure.
Right. No doubt.
So and a shout out to those who were able to attend Charter Day. I was there representing Bison Brothers Basketball. We had a chance to fellowship and raised about $1.3 million for scholarship in one night. So
awesome.
everything was working. Everything was working. So we're not here if there's no Howard University. So continue to shout out and support alma mater. We're shouting out for every alumni that's listening in to the podcast. So as we always do, shout out to the HU Showtime marching band. They get us going. We're going to do a little dance break, and we come back with you with some recaps. Enjoy. Oh, it's the horns. It's the horns. Yeah, it's all about the tuba, shorty. That's from Drumline. Shout out to another film that should have won an Oscar.
Yellow moment. Was it just me?
I was gonna shout out School Days. E, that's one of your schools you represent, right? You went to Mission College or Morehouse? I can't remember. So, you know, I just want to make sure I shout out the right school, you know. But welcome back. This your boy Be Smooth. It's Chip Washington and EWash. Still got to love Jones. We're here with our what we'll call our final regular season wrap up. I know it'll feel weird when you hear this. You won't hear us mention the last regular season game that's happening. By the time you hear this, we'll have passed that. And the good news is, no matter what happens in that game, the preview for the tournament won't change much, so we'll be able to jump to that. But just know we're back. We're going to talk a little bit about the recap. We did a North Carolina swing. We had a work trip down to North and South Carolina over the weekend, over Charter Day weekend. And so let's get into it, fellas. I know this shouldn't be too long. There were some familiar themes. We started the road trip in Durham, North Carolina, off Fayetteville Street. And for those who hang out down there, those where the Eagles hang out from North Carolina Central. And so we'll start with our ladies. They've been on a tear really since the last time they met up with Norfolk State. And so as far as I can tell, they knew the mission. They came in saying we got to hold our position and continue to just get stronger for the tournament. So I know for me, I'm looking forward to any variations you may have, Chip, on your rinse and repeat. But no rinse and repeat. It's all rinse and repeat here, huh?
Yes, indeedy.
Okay.
Yes, indeedy. So, I mean, to me, the story of the North Carolina game was the second quarter. We outscored them. I think it was 25-5.
We did,
and it was the rinse and repeat part. Was we started off a little slow, defense picked up, our scoring picked up, and you know North Carolina went cold. I think they were 1 for 12 field goal, 0 for 5 on the threes. You know, you get outscored 25-5 in the second quarter. That's going to be hard to come back from. To me, that was the story of the game. But, you know, for us, like I said, I want us to get off to better starts. But that seems to be the trend here. Like I said, we have a slow start. Defense picks up. Scoring picks up. Boom, we pull out the dub. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. No, I agree. E, anything from you, bro?
Yeah, about the only thing I would sort of kind of tag on what Chip said, I think because they have been doing the thing that we're talking about, which is, you know, other than Destiny Howell, of course, there hasn't been one particular second scorer. So maybe it's because they don't ever know who that second person is going to be. That person has to find a little rhythm. But like everything else, if you're playing some D and that thing, you can kind of hold it down until you get to the kill shot. So
agree. Yeah, the lather, rinse, repeat is the right way. We know that for us, that means that not only are we starting a little bit slow, but pick up the pace. You already talked about it. Our defense remains top notch. That's been our biggest identity. Our toughness is based on the defense. We also have, when we're shooting well, shooting pretty well that day. It's hard to come back, because we start to spread that lead out pretty quickly. A couple of threes, next thing you know, you're down double digits, and we just pretty much played a suffocating D. So we don't wonder if there's going to happen. And like I said, I think the second and third periods or quarters were just the telltale sign of how we put our mark on the game. So they came in, they saw, they conquered, right? And so, they checked off another win that brought them to, I think, 11 or 12 wins for the conference play this year. So they only have one loss, which is pretty awesome given the competition that we've been facing. So, they came in, they understood the assignment. They also understood that, even if you're traveling for a little bit, you got to show up with your A game.
Right.
And so, after they left the floor, our men decided to bring a game.
Yeah.
Not an A game, but a game. So what do we see here? Because I know that for me, I was coming in with some expectations that, after seeing, kind of hit fits and starts, we started to see our whole team emerge. The one, people that we should be counting on for the tournament, we're all starting to play. We saw Taiwo, we saw, someone else starting to emerge with Blake, our favorite most recent guest of the show, Cameron Shockley, OKK. Everybody was starting to bring their games, getting ready for tournament play. Yet, that game was pretty close, and then all of a sudden, towards the end, we just couldn't close that deal. So, what did you guys see on that one?
You want to go first, Chip?
Yeah, I'll go. So to me, the kind of similar to the women's commentary with the second quarter. It was the latter part of the second half where, because it was, like I said, it was a pretty tight game, but at some point, NC Central just had and I had just mentioned, I was texting or talking with some of the fans, and I was like, North Carolina Central is not hitting threes. I maybe they heard me, because as soon as I said that, like 2 minutes later, they ran off like 4 or 5 threes in a row, and then the lead just opened up. I was just like, okay, well, there's that. So we had, we were shooting, I think, about 26% overall on 3 points, well below our average. And yeah, that just wasn't going to be a winning formula.
Yeah.
With the crew that we have, the injuries that the crew that we're playing with, if they're shooting 26% from the three overall, that's not a winning recipe. So,
but didn't they start hot from the three?
It started off hot. They were about 37%.
Yeah.
From the three, but the second half we were like 14%. So, yeah, it was they were looking like the North Carolina Central women. It was
couldn't
bad.
Couldn't make anything, and
that's a scalding critique.
I mean, it's facts. It's facts. I'm looking at the numbers. It was, the women shot 14%. We shot 14%. So the men shot 14%. So
yeah, we absolutely did. You're right. And for me, I was actually enjoying watching a little bit of the game, because it seemed like we remembered that we took them to task at the Burr in DC. And what I love about the MEAC and the toughness of the MEAC is everybody tends to play a little better at home. And what I had to note was the crowd was really into it. I know that they didn't seem to get there early enough to see the ladies take the L that they took from us. But when it's the guys playing, they tend to bring a lot of people out. So the energy was cool to see, even though the outcome wasn't maybe what we wanted to see. I don't know if it helped me or hurt me with my predictions on how we may play in the tournament, because, as far as I could tell, North Carolina Central is ranked a little bit lower so far, but they got hot at the right time. They got hot at the right time. So they actually had a chance to shock the world a little bit and beat the top seed. So they're peaking right at the right time for them, which means, we get to the segment around the tournament play. There's some teams that are sneaky good. Their records don't say that they're that good. So we'll come back to them in a minute. But yeah, North Carolina was a split decision. We were able to get away with a really much needed win with the ladies to keep the trend going. And with the men, we learned, right? We win or we learn, and we learned some things there. And quite frankly, we have to, take that and file it away, because we know that we had to make a trip even further south to lovely Orangeburg, South Carolina. Shout out to Claflin College and South Carolina State, holding it down in the middle of South Carolina. We before we got down there, I think that's a cool point of the show here, because of Coach Kenny Blakeney and Coach Ty's relationship with Duke University. The day between the games, they actually were able to practice and spend time with Coach K, Coach Krzyzewski, and at Duke. So, we always talk about the brotherhood and the impact of the brotherhood as far as support to the program. And I have to believe that's probably one of the favorite parts of the road trip for Kenny, is to be able to go back to his home in Duke and continue to get that connection back to Coach K. Coach K comes out and spends time with the team and talks to everybody and spends time. So they were able to get a little bit of inspiration hanging out with him before making the rest of the trip on down to Orangeburg. So, of course.
And Kenny and Ty, because Ty's a Duke boy as well. So
that's right, Coach Ty Thornton. I meant to say Coach Ty.
Ty Thornton.
Not Coach Ty Grace. Shout out to it too. But Coach Ty Thornton and Coach Kenny Blakeney, they both are Dukies through and through. So, what Chip? Whenever I know they're going to make that trip and they go see, Coach K, I'm always wondering how will they take that and maybe, turn it into a much needed, pivot or win. When we saw them in years past, one could argue that trip to Duke was like a page turner for them to get ready for tournament play. So I think I was a little more excited knowing they had a little time with the GOAT, one of the GOAT coaches, but they got down to, South Carolina. And again, our ladies, what'd you say, lather, rinse, and repeat. They went into South Carolina State, and if my math is right, they wound up winning by not 20, not 30, not 40, but 50 points. 50 points.
Piece.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the largest margin of victory this season, right? 50 points?
I believe so.
My
And to me, it was welcomed because, as I keep track of the evil empire, Norfolk, I always saw, they were blowing out the competition. And so kind of I always wanted a blowout win for us just as a statement. So it was, I welcomed this blowout win without Sanaya King.
Right. You set out this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool to see that level of, we were overdue, right? You were overdue for the blowout. If we play our full game, the full toughness and the profile we like to play with, I'm always amazed at how much they turn it on, and they didn't turn it off this time. They literally just kept the foot on the gas for the entire 40 minutes. So I was a little remiss because we didn't have a way to see them play, and I had the double FOMO because that's a game I usually would travel down to see because there's only a handful of people that are willing to go into Orangeburg to watch a game and to come right back out. So to have to watch the stat line, and it kept getting. The margin of victory got wider and wider. I won't lie. I did turn it off towards the end because I said, "Come on now, y'all just let's get a running clock. There's no reason for them to lose like this." But it's a statement game. To your point, if they have to play South Carolina or any game in this first part of the tournament, you want to serve up and say, "Yeah, you're not ready for us." And I can promise you, I don't think South Carolina State wants to see us anymore this year.
And shout out to the South Carolina State announcers because I listened to the game and they were hopeful to the end. Yeah. They were hopeful to the end. Like when they were down 40, the announcers, they got into the bonus, and the announcer was like, "Hey, we're in the bonus now." It was like 5 minutes left. Even his fellow announcer was like, "Really? That's what you're saying?" But they had hope to the end. So shout out to the SC State announcers for having hope no matter what.
That's right. E, what you got for us, brother?
Well, I'm having a minor technical difficulty, but I don't know, man. I kind of want to. I'm gonna go name an NBA player that's not Larry Bird this time. And I'm going Jimmy Butler this time. And the reason why is I feel like even if you don't like the way he got to Golden State, right, what he brings to Golden State is, and this is really more for the men than the women, but it applies to both situations. He brings a way to get easy baskets. See, and the reason I like kind of focusing on the Golden State analogy, because most people think, obviously, with them, Steph Curry, 3-point shooting, blah 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 blah, right? But You know, I've seen him post up a couple of times. I see him, you know, working from the elbow in, you know, people cutting off of him, this and that. And it's not like he's Kareem or something, but just the fact that he has that kind of savvy, you know, you can see how it affects the rest of the team. Like, oh, we ain't got to work that hard to get a bucket every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the women, again, since I forgot what episode it was we were talking about, what the changes that they needed to make, they seem to have done it. And the men, you know, they're just gonna have to take some cues from the ladies, you know.
Yeah. And I think to your point, I think Z Payne to me would be kind of the equivalent of Jimmy Butler because she provides that opportunity to get an easy bucket when she's in the paint. She might be moving slow, but she's effective. She's effective. Super effective with what she does. So
gifted the curse.
Yeah, well, she's got body and she likes to take her time. I do think that that analogy to Jimmy Buckets is really apropos because we know that there's members of both of our teams that are trying to make it easier for everybody else to score when we can do it. And I think the lather, rinse, and repeat moves of the ladies squad. Shout out to Coach Ty Grace and team for providing a way for them to grow into this dynastic identity that they're starting to form now. Where if the bigs show up like they need to, and our guards play like they need to, we keep playing the defense. I am looking forward to how they wrap up the regular season, even if it doesn't result in a victory. I just know they're going to get the test that they need to go into the tournament. And right now we're on a pretty good roll. So yeah, I'm in with the ladies. They completed the work trip the way they needed to, and got a chance to say let's get these wins and come on back to DC now, because the guys actually got a chance to spend time with Coach Mike Krzyzewski and hung out in Basketballville, in Duke University. I thought for sure they were going to come out and put on a showcase, right? Because if the ladies put up a 50-piece, and the guys had to match that, right?
Not exactly.
Well, what happened, Chip? I know you listened in. I watched the stat line, and it was close, right? It was pretty much 2 points here and there, maybe 4, but then it turned.
Yeah. It's some of the same stuff. I was impressed because we only had like 14 turnovers. Because last time we played SC State, we had 29.
Yeah, almost 30. Yeah.
But I think still that even though we only had 14, they were still costly turnovers. At particular moments, and it bit us in the butt. It was a closer game. I think we lost by 10 this time. So I mean, if the glass half full, we played tougher, but untimely turnovers or at the wrong time, and it just that kind of sunk our battleship as we were trying to come back against SC State. So my dark horse for the number 1 or 2 seed in the tourney. Go back and look at episode 9 at the 14-minute mark and see.
At the 14-minute mark, put the cape on. Put the cape on if you go back in time like that.
I got distracted. My son just kind of walked by, and he at least had an hour on, so it kind of thematically got.
I'm no longer worried about who walks around at your house. I like that though. That's pretty good. I will tell you. So Chip, with the game, again, we didn't get a chance to watch it like we have all season. Somehow the stream didn't pick up in Orangeburg, which was a loss for us because I think that matchup would have been nice to see how much we were able to adapt to the 94 feet of defensive pressure that South Carolina State has made their identity out of this season. And you're right, they have competed with the entire conference differently, so couldn't take it for granted. And they're clearly one of the top teams this year based on their record and how they play. So we left, South Carolina and North Carolina, 2-0 with the women, 0-2 with the men.
Would you
And
say
so,
you started the SC State game the same way?
Not well. I mean, it was a little bit of a better start, but just over. Again, the 3-point shooting was horrible. We were 18%.
Even in the
Yeah.
beginning?
The beginning was a little bit better. It was 33%, so a little bit below the average. But that second half we were 11%. And but like I said, even with that, we only lost by 10. So, but they played tougher, just kind of ran out of gas, and like I said, with 18% from the 3-point, and that's our strength.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be hard to get it done against a good defensive team that knows what you're trying to do. So, yeah.
Well, I don't think that I don't know, man. Well, I don't want to beat it to death until we get to the good for basketball segment. But, I just think that that inside out thing keeps coming up for me.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think the problem with the inside out, at least, because like Blake is kind of one of our better post players. And I think you brought up before, one time, I think for a change, you want to just kind of see him bring the ball up more, which is good. But I think he's expending so much energy to try to back down in the post. I think it would be better if he could set up in the post and somebody pass it to him, versus him having to expend all of that energy, come down, back down.
Yeah.
Because
I definitely saw, at least, I didn't see any footage on the SC State game. But I definitely, now that you say that, can think of 2 or 3 possessions where the shot clock was running out by the time he got the ball.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, though, that's not good,
Yeah.
And Gill was kind of handling the ball in those moments, not to pick on him or single him out, but it kind of goes to what you're saying about, how they're setting it up in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think your point is valid too, Chip, where we do see that a team like South Carolina that can defend the perimeter as well as the inside, if they can make you use, Coach Bill Belichick says, make you use your opposite hand. I'm not going to let you do what you want to do. So they knew we wanted to go to Blake as the first option, so they body him. They keep him from doing what he does. And then the next thing is they know we want to shoot 3-pointers, so they make it just that more uncomfortable to get your shot off in your spot. So you take away your 2 biggest weapons. Now you're looking at somebody like Tywell or somebody trying to score big down low. And no matter, how much I love how his game has evolved, he's no Akeem the Dream, right? So he's not going to give you a 50-piece down low. So you have to change your strategy. So shout out to South Carolina State for being able to withstand the adjustments we made, because they caught us flat-footed a little bit, and we were shorthanded when they beat us like we stole something in the Burr.
Yeah.
We have our strongest team we've had so far, and they still were able to pull out the victory. Have either of you been to a game at South Carolina State before, basketball?
I haven't.
I have not.
Yeah. Well, it's an old gym, and it's very they have a secret weapon, which is a very loud fan base. They're not a lot of them, but they're very loud, and so. When we travel on the road, it's very hard to pull these victories off unless you're playing your A game. And even when we won, there a couple of years ago on our way to winning our first of the last 2 MEAC Tournament Championships, one of the toughest matches we had was South Carolina State, and they couldn't shoot. They just played ball in a way where it wasn't a beautiful looking brand of basketball. No pick and roll. It's just a lot of bumping bodies, and you're like, man, you just seem like you're just in the way. And so they play a different style of ball where you don't get to play your best looking ball. So you have to grind out a win. And so again, if our stuff's not working, if we're not dropping threes, and if Blake's not able to get to the basket anytime he wants to, they figured out how to keep us kind of neutralized. So it does put a little pressure on who else is, I'm glad there wasn't tape to watch. I'm glad there was no video, because you have to imagine what that looks like. But again, this is where our team, when we travel, we know we got to play our best game, because we're still the champs. So people are going to play us hard, even if it seems like they should take it easy on us. But yeah, Monday was a tough night. It was a tough night. I'm only happy I didn't make the drive down because it's a long ride when you lose. It's a long ride from Orangeburg. Yeah. It adds an extra 30 minutes to a long drive. Just sitting there, just sulking.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, this is our last recap for the year. We may mention anything that comes out that's remarkable from the last game against Norfolk State at the Burr. By the time the show comes out, we'll see if we need to add anything to an edit or two. But right now, we know what we're working with. So we'll take a quick break. And we'll come back and we'll talk about what's good for basketball, so that we can spend a little bit of time talking about the tournament. It's tournament time. It's March Madness, baby. Hey, it's all about the tuba, shorty. If I didn't tell you to get up, you'd still be there playing your drum. That's one of my favorite lines. One band, one sound. Welcome back to Bison Brothers Basketball. It's your boy B Smooth. We got Chip Washington and EWash.
What's up?
We're bringing all of the updates and all of the inside scoop on all things Howard basketball. We just finished up another one, and actually our last one of our big recaps from the season. Been 17 weeks in a row and counting, man. We've been having fun with this first season of Bison Brothers Basketball. And so with this part of our program, we're going to get into some MEAC tournament previews. But before we do, we're going to go turn it over to Mr. EWash. He's going to give us what's good for basketball, and he's already done it once, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear a Larry Bird reference at some point. So, EWash, the floor is yours, brother.
All right. I can go with a Larry.
See, I knew it was coming.
He is of the Caucasian persuasion, right?
You can.
But since we played in North Carolina and South Carolina, we're going to go with the Carolina way.
Mr. Props. He has another prop for us, ladies and gentlemen. Last time it was a skull, and that came together nicely. Now the Carolina way. Please enlighten us, good brother.
Okay. And then I want to, because we go in the Carolina way, I want to apologize to Coach KB and Coach Ty, because I'm definitely a Tar Heel fan. So, I know.
Hey.
I love Coach K. Well, yeah, I can say I love me from Chicago. He's definitely good for basketball, all of those things. And we love that he's giving love to Howard. But when I was prepping for the show, the book just happened to be on my nightstand. And I started reading it. And the chapter that I started reading was about building confidence, which is also important for where we're headed in the tournament, right? And goals and expectations. And so yet another Dean Smith Tar Heel tie-in is he went to Kansas, right? I don't know if y'all knew that. He went to Kansas and they beat Wilt Chamberlain for the national championship.
Okay.
I'm sorry, North Carolina beat them. That's what I was trying to say. North Carolina beat Kansas for the national championship. And that was considered an upset. Again, another theme we want to latch on to, given the things we've been going through lately. Right? And so he mentioned three things that I wanted to focus on. One was, as much as we like talking about what happened in the past, he says he tries, and because they have a lot of success, he tries not to let past success weigh down what's going on with a current team. So I told myself, I think sometimes, even when we're disappointed with what's going on, the extra weightiness of it is, man, they won last year. man, they won the year before that. So you were more disappointed than you would have been if it was the first time. So this is sort of my shout out and love letter to the players. We're gonna put all that to the side. We're gonna focus on right now. You know, that's one thing that's good for basketball. Two, since we talking about Kansas, he mentioned in the book that, you know, Kansas was a team that struggled the year they won the national championship, right? And he said, but he never let that take the focus off, even though they had a not so great regular season and they didn't win the tournament, the conference tournament, right? Even though that doesn't apply to our situation here. We don't want to incorporate that in the story. But they ended up winning the national championship and beating multiple teams that they lost to in the regular season. Came together at the right time. And so, you know, in this sense, they were the epitome of what we love about March Madness, because no matter how high somebody is seeded, no matter what they did in the regular season, it's just that one shining moment is all it takes for you to, you know, sort of get things together and make that moment happen. So I'm hoping that, you know, regardless of all the things that have gone on, that the Bison are going to incorporate some of that magic into what's going to happen when they get to the tournament. So, you know, the fact that it's coming from Dean Smith, you know, one of those coaches who, you know, everybody admires, you know, it really kind of stuck with me. I wanted to make sure I incorporated that we're talking about. And he is somebody that's always, in every aspect, good for basketball. So, Carolina Way, Dean Smith today. That's what I got.
Carolina Way. That was solid, man.
This guy.
It actually, you know what? I think I've waited the entire season for this moment. It's really good. It's really good. It didn't waver. You kept me in North Carolina. You tied
and
together.
look, and since this has been a theme, I no longer worry.
I no longer worry.
Great job.
First season. Towards the end of the first season, I no longer worry about how this is going to go.
That's only the third time you said it, but
I'm just saying, we started a theme and we've been worried for a minute. This is good, though. This is good.
Good job. Good job.
To do your homework, man. Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. E. Washington. He's still got a Jones for basketball, and apparently he's got a pretty good mind for it too. You put together a story there, brother. Only one Larry Bird reference too, so we're working on it. This is really good. It's really good. So it was a great setup too, because you introduced the Carolina, you introduced, you know, the championship and the March Madness and the one shining moment. So speaking of one shining moment, you know, we're at the point in our season where the next week is for all the marbles. For all the marbles.
Yes.
It you know, we started this journey with you from the tip off of the very first game, and we got a little hyped, and our ladies, we watched them win some early non-conference games to give us some confidence that we may be working on a championship possibility. We got a little overreaction on how we were going to play against Missouri and Kansas early in the season.
Yeah.
I wish we could have played Kansas like recently, because they lost almost every game in the conference. I said, we needed that Kansas. Where was that Kansas when we played earlier? But we got a chance to watch some non-conference play. We got into conference play, and, you know, of course, we continue to admire the rising stars, our freshmen, Sanaya King and Blake Harper. So we had a chance to really celebrate freshmen still playing. You know, it wasn't all about the transfer story like we've heard in previous years. And here we are. We've climbed our way into some positioning, starting with the ladies. You know, based on their run, we are a legitimate number 2 slotted pick. You know, and, you know, it could be a toss up if tomorrow night, you know, for those listening in, we play Norfolk State one more time before the tournament. But right now, we're at least a number 2 pick going into next week's tournament, which means we have a good chance to make it to Saturday. We're trying to get to Saturday of the tournament. So Let's start with the ladies because I want to end with the guys because I believe, Chip, you're going to pull out a cape at some point and start telling us how you think the guys are going to do. Because you've heard, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard that we've lost the last 2 games, but the women have been winning really since the beginning of the season. So any thoughts about how we see the ladies playing through and maybe making a run to Saturday for MEAC Tournament Championship Saturday?
Who wants to go first? You want to go first, E? I got.
You go first.
Okay. So in the lather, rinse, repeat mode.
Yeah.
So for the first thing that I'm worried about is Sanaya King because she limped. I think it was she got a little hurt. Was it at the North Carolina game?
North Carolina Central,
Didn't play at South Carolina State. So I kind of need to know what's going on with her because she's going to be instrumental to this run. So, if she's back up to speed, my only concern, and I've been saying this all season with the women's team, like even though they've been winning, we've been consistently inconsistent in terms of scoring. And, even kind of through the 4 quarters, we'll have a good bad first quarter, good second quarter, okay third quarter, maybe a good fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. All that's going to be okay until we get to the Evil Empire. So
shout out to Norfolk State as the Evil Empire.
They play
once we get
chess. They play a 4D chess.
The force is strong within this one.
So I think for us to topple the Evil Empire, we're going to have to put together in the championship game. Yeah. Kaya Creek is going to have to be a double-digit scorer. Tiana Walker is going to have to be a double-digit scorer. Destiny Howell is going to have to be a double-digit scorer. And Sanaya King is going to have to be a double-digit scorer. And another thing that I think they're going to have to do is another trend that I kind of saw most of the season is even though we're a good rebounding team, sometimes I've seen other teams be tougher to the ball. And so, again, all of this is okay when we're playing the chopped liver teams, which is going to be everybody until we get to the championship game and the Evil Empire. So against the Evil Empire, we're going to have to be tougher trying to get getting the rebounds because we got that size advantage, but you got to have that grit and that toughness to get it. Like we'll be in place and we'll have the ball, but it won't be secure. But then that, somebody that's a little bit hungrier will kind of steal the ball up, off the rebound. So we're going to need Creek, Walker, Z-Pain, Destiny Howell, and Sanaya all in double figures. And we got to be tough on the board, tough to the rebound, the 50-50 balls. Got to be tough, and we got to get those. If we do that, I'm confident that they can topple Norfolk State. But that's... It's got to happen.
Okay.
Wow. E, what you got on that one, man?
Well, I'm going to lather, rinse, and repeat on that one myself because, again, the things you can count on. Destiny Howell, coach, keeping them calm and having a good strategy. It's the things that don't show up on the stat sheet, especially tournament time, that end up making the difference or surprising opponents. Like, I wasn't expecting that. And that's something you don't have to try to train or come up with something new. Like, I got my game face on, I'm going here. And, you don't have to have no strategy about boxing out. Just box out,
This is true. Yeah, I won't go lather, rinse, repeat on this one because I do. Even though some of my jokes all throughout the season make you think I don't respect our opponents, some I don't, but I'll let them figure out who's who. Right now, with the tournament, because of the style that we play, the injuries that we've sustained late in the season, it's my watch point because right now, most of the games we did get a check, we were able to put in check was because we had, scoring at the right time. We played defense, but we needed somebody scoring. And I believe it's going to be a medley of scores to get us to a championship run. And then how we go against Diamond Miller is really what I'm looking for because a lot of our hopes are sitting on how well we play in the interior. How do we block out? How do we double? How do we keep some of the low post scorers that tend to go to work on us? How do we keep them down to a low roar? Many of their wins were accompanied with our opposing players that getting doubles on us, right? Rebounds and points. So we have to slow that down so it doesn't become as competitive as it could be. But the Diamond Miller is she's going to be the MEAC player of the year right now based on all the accolades, and she deserves them all. And so they're coming in with a high level of confidence. So we have to disrupt the status quo, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to disrupt their lather, rinse, and repeat because they've been doing that all season. So I need some disruption for us to make that happen. We've done well getting to Saturday. I just want us to get through Saturday, and it's been a long time since we've been able to kind of put that together and say, let's disrupt the status quo. So yeah, number 2 seed, we earned it. We absolutely earned it, and I believe we're peaking at the right time. And as long as we can match firepower with firepower, it should be a blast. I'm looking forward to extending my stay to Saturday. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking to do. Now, while my confidence is high with our ladies, in this particular universe, since Chip's going to help us with the multiverse here, in this particular universe, I don't know if I'm as high on the guys. Even with the Carolina Way speech, Eric, you almost had me. I was teared up. I was like, man, he's quoted Coach K and my man from North Carolina. Yeah, he said, I'm going to quote the greats. And I said, I don't know. So let's set it up, right? Because right now, given where we are, my biggest concern, and I think we had a little bit of an injury report. So Doc got hurt in that last game. So don't know how well he's going to do. I don't even know if he's going to suit up for the last game of the season. But as you said, Chip, if we know what our position is, we'd rather just let people rest up and give them a couple of days to get together. So, the reason I'm concerned about Doc is that he absolutely represents some of the last championship DNA we've had for the last 2 years that would be on the floor. And so even though we have a pretty good team and a really rising star in Blake, any seed we're getting in now, I'm nervous because every team we have to go against has had something to say about us playing this year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So there's no clear team we say, wow, we really took care of business with them the whole season. So every matchup will matter. So I currently am hopeful because I'd like to see a three-peat just because that would be cool. I think there's a way for us to get there, but I've been broken record. We have to see more from people who haven't shown more. I'm talking to you, Anwar Gill, just saying, you're listening.
Gill with the will.
So we need everybody who's been playing a little bit.
Don't take it personal, fellas.
Too late. It's very personal because we know you can play. And if you all put together your best games like an AAU tournament for about 3 days, all I'm asking for is 3 days. If you do 3 days of your best basketball, we can shock the world again. So I'm not convinced because I haven't seen it all together yet, but if it happens, it's possible. So Chip, take us to the multiverse. I don't know where your cape is, but just what are the ways you can see us maybe having our men's team join the women's team on a Saturday, championship Saturday?
All right. So before I get to the multiverse, I gotta do a little setup myself, which B, you kind of did. So Bison Nation, we were here last year.
We were
right. So we got blown out by the Evil Empire at the last regular season game. We were the 4th seed. I mean, it was looking bad. We were down to 7 or 8 players. I mean, you talk about lather, rinse, repeat. I mean, we're right here again. Now, one thing that I won't even say it concerns me, but it was food for thought. So, last year we had an older crew that was leading us into the tournament. That's right. This time we got a freshman that's leading us. Now, nothing about Blake shows us or leads us to believe that he's going to wilt in the tournament. But he is a freshman, and it just needs to be noted. But on the flip side, March Madness, we've seen freshmen do amazing things in a tournament. Carmelo Anthony, the Fab Five, on and on. So this could be Blake's one shining moment to lead the crew. So, just putting it out there, like I said, food for thought. Because I was just like, I know it's the thief of joy, but I couldn't help but compare to last year's team because it's like the same. We're in the same boat.
We are.
So
we are.
So with that, I said, okay, just like and Bison Nation, I want you to know I'm doing this analysis under protest because Bryan won't show my graphic.
I won't put
if
him
you
up.
if you saw Infinity War, you remember Doctor Strange when they were going against Thanos, and pretty much Norfolk's they like Thanos, the evil empire. I was thinking, how can we defeat the evil empire? And I was thinking, and for the Apple folks, if you had the imagination and if Bryan had worked with me, you would see a picture of me looking like Doctor Strange, trying to think, what is it? There's so many possibilities, but there may only be one path to victory. And this is what I think that path is. So I went back, I looked at last year's 3 games.
Yeah.
I said, what was the formula? The 7 guys, right? 3 or 4 of the players played 37 minutes or more for all 3 games. Some 40 minutes. So Blake probably gonna have to play 40. At least it's gonna be at least 37. Right. So this is where I need y'all's help because I was trying to figure out so the formula last year was 3 to 4 players that played 37 or more minutes. In my head, I got Blake, and if he's healthy, I got Doc. Who are the other 2 that you think? I'm leaning OKK, right, for the shooting. Part of my heart says Joshua Strong just because, the 3-point shooting, but I hate the lack of height that brings, because we already looking at 4, so then who's that 5th person? So
right.
I'm kind of backing off Joshua, even though we're probably going to need his shooting, just like Jordan Hairston last year. So I need some help. So the way is 3 or 4 players are going to have to play at least 37 minutes. Outside of Blake and Doc, who would what other 2 players do you think need to be in that 37 to 40 minute range? And what can they give us?
Wow. That's interesting. So I do have a term for you. It's called post-production. So we're gonna put a picture on this thing on the market. And the fact that you say it like that means it's gonna look funnier. We're gonna make sure everybody knows that you really were going hard in the paint for your Doctor Strange impersonation. So that's an interesting one. So you're saying that having a set of people who will play pretty much the entire games is what we're looking, who can stay in the game and play that game that way.
Yes, because that was the formula. Like I said, last year we were coming in hobbled, just got blown out by Norfolk. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but it's possible just from the injuries. But Thursday's game against the Evil Empire, like I said,
it's a wrap up. It's a wrap up game, yeah.
But yeah, those 4 players,
wow,
they got it in for those 3 games. And so what 4? Like I said, I definitely got Blake. I definitely got Doc. I'm trying to think. So what do y'all think?
I'm not gonna drink your Kool-Aid quite yet.
Oh,
okay.
For this reason, because it's not that it's a bad analogy, but I'm gonna stick with the Dean. We're not gonna worry about what we did last year. In the moment, right? And in the moment, the things that I know happen are 1, they even when they are not playing well, they play hard. Right. You all made a great impression on me about how much Houdini the coach KB is willing to use to shock and awe, like when he held out whoever it was.
Oh yeah, Doc.
It was
the first
Doc.
half of the game, yeah.
And then on top of that, Chip, you was doing some good prognosticating about our homeboy from Kenwood stepping up. We weren't talking about that the first half of the season, So it's for those reasons that I wouldn't limit it to 4 people, right? They
Okay.
always play hard. If you want to say they haven't always played smart, I could accept that, right? But we walked into this season with high expectations, got smacked around a little bit, lost some critical people, man,
We did. We
and
did.
still, when it was all said and done, was able to turn around and be at least a media darling based on not just the notoriety of Blake, that's a big part of it,
Yeah.
but because they seem to all. I mean, what I'm also remembering is, hey, when we were going through the non-conference schedule, they were playing well against a lot of non-MEAC, non-HBCU teams, and
Yeah.
if I'm going to remember anything from this season, they always impress me with, okay, Florida Atlantic or on the road, no less. So it's not like they don't have it in them to do it. You
It's
know,
true.
do we have some things that I won't even say we need to work on? I think Chip, you brought up another good point about the starting and the finishing, right? But again, even like with the Blake Harper thing, if they, that's not a new strategy. Like, okay, well, you know, Bryan, you talked about Gill. They can find somebody to bring the ball up. I don't think that's going to throw them all out of whack to tweak that a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
so right back to, we got a post game. Yeah, we got outside shooting. Yeah, they play defense, and yeah, they don't quit. And to contradict myself a little bit, this ain't their first time at the rodeo.
Hey,
That was
So,
beautifully
that's
said.
what
That
we,
was beautifully said.
quote Bill Russell, the game's gonna be on, the refs gonna be there, it's gonna get played, somebody's gonna win. It might as well be us.
boom.
Wow. Wow. That was well stated. Look at him. He's still on this flow right now. Chip EWash is in his bag tonight. I
Hey,
love it. I love it. I
hey.
love it. So what I love about both of you is that in the spirit of the Oscars, you guys continue to defy gravity. You defy gravity because in my mind, as well as my heart, I do need a little bit of a mix where I do need some folks who can dig deep from the past to make sure people know what it's like to really have to play your heart out for 3 days in a row, right? But you also need to know that we can't hold ourselves hostage to a formula that was really based on the people on hand, right? Everybody we ever had, every team, both the last 2 championship teams, there's only a handful of people who were on both, and they didn't play the same role on each version
No,
of.
that's a good point too.
So the idea is that what makes this a cool moment of a potential three-peat to me is that in order for us to pull off the currently improbable based on our performance and our health, is that we need to have the connection to the past that says, here's the level, here's the championship level we have to rise to. And that's what we have over almost every other team playing next week, short of Norfolk's. Norfolk's been there before us, and they had a 2 year absence, but they were in the championships. They know what it feels like to lose, but they don't know what it feels like to win in a couple of years. We actually have winning on our side. So the coaches have it, and there are a handful of players, even some of those that'll be standing on the sideline in boots, that can say, this is what it means to play these next couple of games in a way that you don't get another shot. This is not a let's just roll with it and see what happens. We
Mhm.
heard it. We heard it on the last podcast, and we'll be playing a little bit more of the interview with Namdi Cameron Shockley Okeke. But I don't know. It wasn't lost on me, fellas, when we were talking about what they had on their mind and the toughness of our conference. He immediately went into our practices are some of the toughest practices I've been in. And so while it doesn't necessarily show on some of these games recently, I believe that they're practicing for those 3 days next week. And so I believe it has to be both. It can't be let's forget the pass or it has to be 3, 4 people have to do 40 minutes. What they need is the output. And right now, what we've learned is that when we start off fast and we dictate the pace, that's the best position for us to be in. So people have to play to our speed when we wait around and we try to feel it out and get a couple of shots off, we take too long to get scoring, on people, we're susceptible to the L. And that's been the standing formula. So that, to your point, Chip, last year was awesome about we jumped out and dictated pace on everybody we played with. Even the championship game, we said, this is the pace we're going to play, and you got to stick with us. We've seen that. We have to keep that going. So I'm excited because it does gives us a chance to see what this version of the team will bring. My hope is that we got both teams there Saturday. And my big hope is that there's two different destinations we all have to travel to for March Madness for the men and the women.
Yes.
So that's the problem we talked about before, Chip. We want the problem of where do we have to go and what time does the game start so we can get a helicopter. We'll just fly back and forth to the game. So this is exciting, man. I appreciate you all running down the way we're going to get after a championship run. We will have at least one of us will be in Norfolk next week, so we'll get some footage, maybe talk to some of the fans and players, and we'll get some things. But we'll have a wrap-up show for sure where we just kind of wrap up the season and kind of highlight some of our best moments. So we're looking forward to sharing that with you. And then, Chip, we got a whole lot of things we're going to cover in the off season when it comes to some of our new players and even some of the transfer portal activity and just what's going on with the program. So thank you, Chip, for inviting E and I to be part of this vision of bringing fans to Howard basketball. We're having fun every week trying to figure out what we're right about and what everybody else is wrong about.
Another feather in your cap, Chip, is this podcast is good for basketball.
It is.
I've enjoyed myself. It has brought a sort of a pureness back to the way I look at basketball and look forward. Yeah, man, this is a great thing, man, for sure.
Hey, I'm excited. I'm excited about the future of the program. I'm excited about the future of this podcast. Just so many great things in store. I can't wait to see it all just come to fruition. I want to continue to thank Bison Nation for supporting us, supporting this team. Man, I'm humbled. Can't wait. Take the evil empire down. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've come to the end of what I believe to be another great prognostication on your part, Chip. We've heard about how well you picked South Carolina State to be the dark horse in the MEAC race. We heard about Mr. Robbins, Dunk Master Flex becoming an integral part of our team.
That's right.
But my hope is that we can come back and give you a 3-for-3 moment and say, and look at when we predicted the championship for Howard for a third year in a row. No doubt. So we're excited. Chip, close this out like we normally do so we can get ready for booking our trip to Norfolk.
Bison Nation, you heard the call. Support these championship programs. You can do it in so many ways. You can donate to the Name, Image, and Likeness Collective, the Mecca Society, at the meccasociety.org. You can donate directly to the athletic department two ways at hubison.com. You can donate to the athletic fund or through the Bison Express Booster Club. So many ways to give. Continue to give. Donate money to the championship programs. Also, butts and seats. Bison Nation, we're going to need you in Norfolk. If you're anywhere near Scope Arena, come on down. And as Christina and Taylor taught us, get those chants going. We want to hear it all. OKK, Gill with the wheel, Big Mo, all of it. We want to see all of it, all up and down, especially at the Burr. So, and then Scope Arena, get it all in. And continue, everybody, to tell everybody about this podcast. We plan to be around forever. So you can hear this podcast in so many ways. You can hear us on YouTube. You can hear us on Spotify. You can hear us on Apple. And you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. Share the podcast, like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, comment on the podcast. Tell us what you want to hear, and just continue to support this program, this championship culture. We going down to Norfolk. We going to do it. Three-Peat. We going to make it happen. We going to close out this last regular season show like we always do. HU.
You know.